Okay, I think we are live. So, hello. Welcome
Hi.
to
Oh,
welcome to Being Fine again, Kapil. Well, yeah, hello to anyone watching, and hello to you too. I wasn't ignoring you, Kapil. Hi.
that's fine. I'm okay being ignored.
You just said the F word already. We've only just started.
It's so ingrained in us.
But I'll let you off because you're allowed to use it in that context.
Well, I can still be frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional at the same time.
Hey, you missed the true F word at the beginning there. You're being polite because it's the afternoon show. So, Kapil Gupta, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here, Jo.
Oh, it feels like you and I kind of like regularly feature in our Being Fine sessions, but I think that's because we're both so passionate about the message. But no, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Normally we have our fortnightly calls, don't we, on the Facebook Live, which are every other Wednesday. The next one is next Wednesday at 7 o'clock in the Being Fine Facebook group. But today I wanted to get Kapil on his own. I wanted to corner him and get you
On the
talking
hot seat.
about no pressure.
Okay.
So, but you have just had an incredible journey. But first of all, I just need to congratulate you because you've just done a TED Talk.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, and I can say firsthand, because I was there, that you were amazing. I mean, I am slightly biased, just a tad, but I think your talk was amazing. So look out, everyone, for Kapil's TED Talk. It was TEDx Lambeth, and that will be out on YouTube soon. And he
Soon.
is amazing. Where he's that way? He is amazing. Shh, don't say it too much; he gets embarrassed. But he was amazing. So congratulations, because you know that must have been quite a monumental moment for you.
Yeah. I mean, you know, TED or TEDx platforms, they are just, I've been a big fan of TED Talks for a long time. And I've always like dreamt of being on that platform, and I think the the most pressure is about delivering something that's of value. Like it's such a the outreach for TED platform is huge, and so I wanted to talk about something that's meaningful and that's hopefully will have an impact. The idea, TED is all about ideas worth sharing, and I do genuinely believe that the idea that as men we have to integrate our sensitivity and our vulnerability and stop looking at these things as some kind of a burden or something that's wrong or something we have to hide. I just feel that that's so last century, right? We've got to change that, and I think there's lots of good work happening right now. Uh, I'm not sure if it's enough. I think we need a lot more, because I think generally speaking, there most forums that I go to where we talk about men's work, where we talk about any kind of relating work, there's still a lot of misunderstanding around just connection to our feelings and emotions as men. And we live in this like formulaic world where it's like, oh, either once we get to a level of achievement or success, everything's going to be fine, or forcing our way through feelings and emotions. And that's, in my experience anyway, and the people I've worked with, that's a temporary solution. Long term, there's no other way but to integrate and allow those parts of us to flourish. So I'm passionate about that because my journey has been around sort of integrating my own emotions and vulnerability and sensitivity, and so I love talking about it. I love working with people on that very subject because I think we're all looking to find fulfillment. And I think fulfillment is really only possible if we integrate both are masculine and feminine traits inside of us. And that's really my passion. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was a great opportunity, to be able to go up there and to share some of my experiences and thoughts.
It was amazing, and I'm really grateful to have been there to sort of see it firsthand. To let you know, I don't think I shared this with you yet, but the person introducing all the TED speakers. So obviously he had a natural banter introduction, and then thank you for that, speaker such and such. After yours, he went on stage, and I don't know if it will be recorded. He went on stage and he just literally went, wow, that was just the most awesome speech, just epic. I mean, he's a young guy, right? So quite funky, but he was totally, he just, and the energy in the room was kind of really, it was like everyone had just gone, wow, and really just gone back down to earth. That's the only way I can explain it. So that was the impact for 30 people that day. So I hope that reaches it, because you hit on something at the start of what you just said, which was about the hiding thing, the striving, and then the hiding, and then the pretending. Is that what it's all about? Is that why men keep all these emotions and feelings underneath it? Is that?
I'm not sure how much of it is conscious. I think for me, definitely it wasn't. It was, I think, it's a cumulative sort of experience that I think at some point in the past, we take on this idea that our feelings and emotions are not welcomed, or it's either a group of men being macho, where we hear things like, oh, he's just such a wuss because he shows emotions, or he's sensitive, or like in a relationship you would hear things like, oh, if you are with a woman who's very emotional and you are not seen as wearing the pants, like holding the relationship together, then you are not man enough. So you have to be seen as this macho guy who's got everything in control. Or things like, at work, if you show any kind of intensity of emotions, then it's like seen as you're someone who's difficult to deal with. So I think it's a cultural understanding. And I've been reading a lot on emotional intelligence, and one of the things that they talk about, like, again, around conditioning for boys and men, is that I think when we are young, men are treated in a different way to, or boys are treated in a different way to girls, in that girls are okay to show emotions and sensitivity, but if boys show that, and I'm generalizing, obviously, it's not necessarily true everywhere, but the common piece around is that, oh, if boys show emotion, then it's like it's not a good thing. And certainly I had that, like a lot of my experience that I'm talking about is my own sort of living through these kind of stories. Like I remember very clearly, I don't know it's a specific instance, but I very clearly remember creating this idea that as men you don't show emotions, or as men if you are vulnerable then that's a weakness, or as men, like even the idea of vulnerability or sensitivity is like there's something weak about it. And it's not that suddenly if you're sensitive then uh, 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 you're a different kind of a man. you know it's just that emotions and men seem to, you're put in a box that, oh, if you are an emotional guy or if you're a sensitive guy, then here's the box and we label you, and this is what you're treated as. And then I think what happens over a period of time is that we lose connection to who we really are, like our authentic self, because we are now pretending to be someone or carving a certain personality to fit in the world's idea of a man, what a man should be like. And that's what I see pretty much everywhere. It's like, if you are doing X, Y, and Z, then you are man enough. And if you're not, then you're not man enough. And I think that is the root of it, because that then creates this idea of I am not good enough, which then underneath that is like, oh, I'm not worthy. And I'm not worthy of things. I'm not worthy of love. And that becomes like the root self belief. And then everything is in life is just a projection of that. And then we are just like running around trying to achieve things or acquire things because we believe that that will give us the worth, the self-worth.
So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy then, isn't it? It's just a continuous cycle. It's
right.
It's not feeling valued, not feeling like you're able to express, keeping in emotions and feelings so that you won't be judged, and then coming back to not feeling fulfilled and connected. And then it's just a continuous day in, day out. Because a couple of our authors do mention this, don't they? And I know you've spoken to them, that one of our authors was criticized and brought into the manager's office for being too emotional at work. And he said, you've got to stop being so emotional. It's not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't.
Sorry, go on.
So if you can't, so how can you? And it's almost like there's so many segments to this that all kind of accumulate to this terrible falseness, isn't it? It's being simplified. But if you can't be connected to your full self, then you can't ever really show up as you. And that is, I mean, I just think, oh, so we've not moved on, have we, from medieval times, when as a man you were meant to be kind of either fighting or out catching boar. It's true in a way, isn't it? It's like if we're still believing that is men's role and only men's role, then naturally we haven't evolved, have we? Which I would argue we haven't really, to be honest, in some ways. So, but it's always starts from self, and that's part of your work, isn't it? This starts from self, because I know a lot of your work is about changing how we believe ourselves to be and present and in the world. So, what does that look like? How do you work with men on that?
Well, I think what I have come to realize is there are kind of like 4 key areas, which is now I've created a framework around it. And this is how the journey that I have gone through. I think one part is our identity work, which is like how we came to define who we are and how we live, which is, say, for instance, most people don't even understand boundaries. Like 90% of my work with people is about boundaries. Like when it comes to connecting with each other, connecting in our relationships at work, we just don't understand our boundaries. And then the other part of it is what I call victim consciousness. So living in our life where is life happening for us or life happening to us? And when we live in this idea that life is happening to us, then we fall into, you call it victim triangle or drama triangle, as it's called. And then there's this like, what kind of belief system have we got? Like, how do we define our self-worth? How we define our inner value? Do we have a basic idea that we belong, or we fear abandonment? And how do we, what is our relationship with self-care and self-love? So those are kind of like our belief system. And the fourth thing in that identity is our cultural conditioning. What are the things that we've learned growing up through our family, the society, our friend circle, our extended family? What ideas have we grown up with? So when you combine those 4 things, that is how we kind of define our identity. So a deep excavation of our identity work is crucial to create, I think, a solid foundation in who we are. So that's one area. The second part for me is things like introspection and knowing our mind body connection, like congruence. So for me, I was someone who was very much in a rational, logical world. Um, and I was pretty much most of my time in my head. I was not connected to my body. And if in 8 years ago, if someone even said anything about embodiment, I was like, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea. So I find that just connecting with our body and understanding things like how our intuition works, how our feelings have a language that nobody understands. Like, I mean, I'm being cliched here, but men usually are very rational and logical in that way, and women are more embodied and connected. So in that way, I say that women are bilingual in that way because women have learned the masculine language as well as they're expert in feminine language, which is the body-based language, while men mostly haven't done the work to connect with our feelings. So we are just like, you know, logical, rational, direct language based. So connecting to my body had allowed me to learn this feeling based language. Because ultimately, if you look at it as humans, we are always connected. Even when we don't speak a word, there's
Yeah.
always a some kind of communication happening at a feeling level, at an energetic level. And if you can tap into that uh, embodied space, then a whole new world opens up. So that is the second part that I work with, which is kind of my specialist area, masculine feminine dynamics. I just love that. Then the third piece I have learned is, whether you call it discipline, practices, rituals, but something that you do on a daily basis to it's like going to the gym. Like if you go to the gym once in a month versus going to the gym every day, you will know the difference. So for our mind, body, and spirit, what are our practices that we do every day to keep on top of things? Because there are peak experiences when we go into like workshops, we go into learn some new things, and we have a peak experience where we learn something about ourselves, and we're like, oh, this is possible for me. I can see a version of myself that I wasn't able to see yesterday. And we think that just by going to those workshops, we will achieve that place. But no, no, no. What you've got to then do is to build the practices, build the discipline to become the person that you see in these peak experiences. So that is the third piece for me. And the fourth is living life as play, like an infinite game. And which is, there's like rules of infinite play that I teach and what I have learned, which is about not living any part of life on a win-lose basis, but we play the game because we just want to play the game. And when I say game, as in life as an infinite game, and everything in that just becomes research. Everything, your work, money, relationship, everything becomes research where we're just continuously learning and playing and getting better than ourselves. And then you just like play. So those four kind of areas are what I have sort of, in my experience, I've put together, that when you do those things, that's where like you can go towards mastery, like live a life which is in flow. um, and and that's applicable everywhere. I think men, women, the journey might look slightly different because of our cultural conditioning is different. And that's where I think a lot of the time I differentiate between the masculine and feminine, because like certain men are more feminine than masculine and certain women are more masculine than feminine. So masculine and feminine are more traits that we all have. Is just sometimes on that scale of masculine and feminine, I seem to be more on the masculine side, and I want to develop my feminine side, and that's how I want to be a whole human being. Does that like that's kind of where I that's how I work with people, to be honest.
Yeah, and the whole energy is an interesting, that's energy is everything. And initially, I must admit, when I heard you define masculine and feminine traits, my hackles went up a little bit because I was like, hold on a minute, it's all just energy. But
Yeah.
I guess what you do, it allows you. You're not defining every woman as having being just a solely. What you're saying is that actually we are naturally designed, created, whichever way you want to think of it, to be slightly better at certain things on one small level, aren't we? But then by embracing each other's, recognizing where we sit on within that, and then recognizing each other's. Because you did a lovely interview with a super cool lady. You were in bed with her, but you weren't really.
Oh, with Korean. Yes.
In bed with Queen. Such a cool interview. And you talked a lot then about how we can actually just really sort of complement and supplement and just really play with just trying a little bit, which is really important, isn't it? And because you were talking a lot about relationships then, about dating and about marriage and partnerships, where actually it's really important to just create awareness of it is where it comes from, isn't it?
Totally. And I think there's a lot of confusion, and we get really tight about this idea of like masculine equals men and feminine equals women. And I find that it's a way more complex world than that. The way I have made sense of it mostly is um, that there is a conversation happening at a socio-political level. When we go out to work, when we go out in our society, then the masculine feminine doesn't even exist. It's all about gender and the idea that all genders are equal, right? And in that way, I think in that context, masculine feminine is taken as masculine equals men and feminine equals women. But ultimately, it's about all genders being equal, right? Or equal opportunity. And then I think the what I am fascinated by is the underworld, which is the dimension of relationships and connection, which is I believe that we all have masculine and feminine traits in us. However, and I'm not sure if it's a biological thing or if it's just a condition thing. I don't know. I think this is my, like, the search goes on in that way. I do feel there are certain probably biological differences as well when it comes to feminine and masculine, but mostly I believe that we've just been conditioned through centuries as what is a masculine trait or conditioned masculine is, and what is a feminine trait and what conditioned feminine is. There's a huge amount of that. And when I say that, by that, what I mean is men or boys are always related with color blue. And that's how, like, the mindset that we grow with is like, oh, you look at blue, it's boy, it's men. And the mindset that girls grow up with is associated with pink. And all of that mindset comes with certain ideas of how we have to show up in life. However, I think at at some level, when it comes to relationships and connection, I believe that we all have the masculine and feminine traits. However, we are conditioned to be more in masculine or more in feminine, depending on what our parents told us, what kind of environment we grew up in, what kind of I don't know, traumas we've gone through, what kind of learnings we've had, what kind of difficulties we've had in our life, and all of those kind of nice things. So when I look at myself, I just think about it in a way that I want to cultivate all of my traits. If I want to be in my full potential and full self-expression on this planet in my living life, then I want to see how far I can go, both in my masculine traits and in my feminine traits. And I have no shame, I have no shame around my sensitivity or my vulnerability or my creativity, which is like the feminine traits, right? Um, so for me, when I learned these things, I have no issues around, oh, I should be better at this or better at this. It's like, I want to be better at both. Yeah, I want more masculine and more feminine in me. While this weird conversation around, oh no, men need more masculine, less feminine, or women need more feminine and less masculine, is like, I don't get that. It's like, let's have both, have more
Yeah.
masculine, more feminine, and then have the choice in each condition what traits you want to use. That makes sense to me. And that's how I look at it, the whole masculine feminine debate.
But I guess you've mentioned the word a few times now. There's a reason why Brené Brown's talk of vulnerability is one of the most popular on TED Talks.
Yeah.
Because it and she's written a book on it, and she's done phenomenally well, and she's become global based on that one simple message of we all must be more vulnerable, and that is men and women, obviously, and everyone on this planet. So but obviously for men that can be more of a challenge when like you had that training from a very, very early age, which sadly is what all of us are dealing with, basically, is retraining ourselves out of that inner child and valuing that inner child, but retraining into the human we truly are with our own values. So let's just, if people, and it's great people are watching, so thank you for watching today or listening if you're listening live too. But there is a lot that happened to you, and sadly, this is a common story to some level. Not your story, obviously, but that unfortunately that training happened very young for you, when you were basically told to behave a certain way, weren't you? And tell everyone a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, like when I think of vulnerability, I just think of this word empathy. Like um, and empathy is just really about feeling other people's feeling state. Like, if you are sad and I'm connected to you, I can feel your sadness in my body. And it doesn't even have to be that I'm sitting in front of you, or like if I'm talking to someone or if I'm connected with someone, I can feel their sadness across across the world, across continents. You can feel people, right? Like it's it and that's what I think empathy is about. And I think vulnerability is all about that, in my experience, in that um being able to say, oh, like, I am feeling sad, and not worrying about, if I am feeling sad, that somehow I am less than, or somehow I am not worthy in some ways. Or, as men, one of the big things is performance. Men, one of the conditioned masculine trait is, we've somehow picked up this idea that we're just supposed to know everything. So for a man to, when questioned, to say, I don't know, it just like it doesn't exist. Like, I still have this thing with Luca, my wife, where she would ask something and I have no idea, but I'm going to try and figure out some kind of answer for her. And nowadays I often think about it as like, oh, actually, I don't know the answer. I can do some research and find out, but the honest answer is that I don't know. And she goes, oh, thank God.
That's great.
Because usually when I'm not conscious of it, my automatic reaction is, oh, she wants to know something, let me figure it out, let me fix this thing. And that comes from this idea that when someone is in discomfort, we can feel their discomfort, right? And we don't want to feel that discomfort in our body, So we want to fix it. We want to fix it straight away so that we don't have to feel, or that discomfort can go away really quickly. And that's where the whole fixing thing comes in for men, because we're just not used to sitting in the discomfort of emotions.
Wow, that's a good one.
So what we want to do is, like, as soon as we find our women in any kind of trouble that we think is trouble, we just want to fix it because we just don't know how to handle it any other way.
But that's fascinating. So you're trying to fix it not because it feels like you need to be productive, but simply because you can't, well, it probably is that as well, but because you can't cope with the feeling of that distress or wow, that makes complete and utter sense to me.
And part of it is also we define our self-worth based on fixing things.
Yes.
So if we fix things, then we're like, oh, I've done a good job. Then my self-worth goes up.
Yeah.
So there's probably a couple of things, but one of the big things definitely is the discomfort of seeing someone in discomfort is difficult for a person who's not used to intense feelings, which most men are.
And intense is the word there, isn't there? Because, if you're just being in your head, then by intense feelings don't come from here. They come from here. And the power, the magnetism, and the energy created from intense sorrow, intense joy, even, because it goes both ways. And we're talking on a bit of a sad level right now. And obviously, in my head, I've got your own story in my head, but it works both ways, isn't it? Because say for example, I listen to the radio a lot, and one thing that I cannot believe, and it happens to men and women, but mostly men, is when that person picks up the phone and they win the 10,000 jackpot, the £10,000 jackpot, they go, oh, great, yeah, excellent, thanks. And I will listen to it. What's wrong with you? Jump up and down, scream at least once, deafen me with your excitement. But it definitely is a cultural thing. It's certainly in certain societies, it's a British thing for sure. And obviously that's sadly, it does work to both ends, is that we can't, which is tragic, isn't it? Because, if we can't feel pure excitement, joy, or recognize when we're feeling pure sorrow and grief, and this is a personal journey for me, and we won't go into it now, but there's a very big reason why I'm creating this book. And it's actually taken me 3 months of a lot of meditation to really dig out why I'm making this book, why I'm bringing this book together. And actually, when I realized it the other day, it was a shocker. It was a shocker because I buried all those things. Well, this is the Kapil show. It's for another day, really. But I've been brought up with the fine word. My dad was all about the fine thing, being fine. He had a nervous breakdown, got shingles, and nearly died when him and my mum split up. It devastated him. But I remember him saying, he was in a new flat, like, Joe, it'll be fine. And I didn't realize at the time, but he was almost dying. Be fine, Joe. Yeah. And then sadly, at the other end of his life, just before, the last time I saw him was 3 months before he died, he had slight heart palpitations. And I asked him to get it checked up because he lived in Gambia, came back to see my daughters that had just been born. And I said, get checked out. I'm fine, Joe. I'm fine. And that was the last time I saw him. Yeah. And 3 months later, he had a sudden heart failure in Gambia. And that was the end of his life. But so that, but that hadn't even occurred to me. So we do bury all this stuff away, don't we? And we cover it all up, cushion it in. And because I keep being asked, why are you doing this book, Joe? Why are you getting all these men together to talk about it? And I guess I'm trying to help my dad in a way, because, I wish he could be in the book. But anyway, he can't, but I might mention the story. But let's come on to language, because language is really important, isn't it? And it's really, it's pivotal and really the purpose for this book, because we do use language and we let language cover up what's really going on for us. And also, I'd like you to explain, just to sort of, before we finish, more about this feeling, and giving your best tips for people, especially men, that aren't used to using their body as thermometers, as emotional thermometers, to work out what's really going on. So there you go. I'm going to throw all that at you.
Oh, okay. Feelings. Before I go there, I want to say, like, thank you for the, talking about why you're creating the book and your dad. And the thought that I had in my mind was like, that's why I think the masculine feminine piece is so complicated, and it is so much about the conditioning, and that conditioning is not always men equals masculine, women equals feminine. And I think it totally depends on, I think, what kind of environment we grow up in, and that's what kind of makes it more complicated than just talking about it as men equals masculine, feminine, women equals feminine. Feelings. I don't know where to start. I think for me. Sorry, go on.
No,
you want to give me some tips?
No, it's just because I'm just trying to think of the viewers, and because people will be tuning into this show with the book, that there'll be something in it that hopefully appeals to them, that aren't able, like you have learned, to connect with their true inner feelings of what is happening in their gut, in their intuitive self. So I was kind of digging and probing for you to just give your best kind of advice on, what is all that about, and how can people really start to tune into that?
For me, it was like magic. That's the honest thing I can say. Like, I was so far disconnected from my feelings and trying to figure things out, that when I experienced that when I'm in my body, and when I actually can feel my body and what's happening in my body, automatically I'm also feeling other people. There was this really interesting time. I was in New York with a friend, and we were just walking in the subway, and I was feeling fine, but like I was feeling good and like really, really open, and suddenly I wanted to throw up. And this thought came to me, it's like, why do I feel like I want to throw up? I was literally okay 2 seconds ago. And I asked him, it's like, are you okay? Are you feeling like you want to throw up? It's like, yeah, I'm feeling like I want to throw up. It's like, whoa, I was feeling him. I was feeling what he was feeling in his body, I was feeling in mine, you know? And that was such a aha moment for me, that, oh, I can feel what's happening for other, like, obviously we can, but we don't consciously think of it. But we do, all our, not just our close, partners and family, but we're walking around and we're all kind of like transmitters of these feelings. And part of what happens is that when we open our system, when we are actually allowing ourselves to feel other people, we don't know how to stop it. That's one of the big things I see. There's some Facebook groups around empaths, and people think that empathy is torturous, because when you open your system, you just don't know how to stop feeling the world, and it just feels like you have the entire world's problems in your body. So the thing that I had to learn was then, okay, then I need to understand my boundaries. Go whole circle, we go back to boundaries, where I can feel emotions, and at the same time I can create energetic boundaries so that I don't take all those feelings. So it doesn't happen in a day. It took me a good while to sort of go into this world, actually get lost inside of the world, and then make sense of it and learn the tools to master it. However, when I was able to, it literally felt like magic. Like I would be standing in front of someone and I can actually feel what's happening for them. I didn't have to strategize. I didn't have to look for formulas. I didn't have to look for a NLP strategy or look for cues in their body languages. I can simply just be open and feel what's happening for the other person and be empathetic to them, you know? And that is magic, literally magic for me. Like coming from the world where I'm coming from like IT, computer science background, completely in my head, being able to do that opens up this entire new world. And it's like it's a new playground. And it's so rich, it's so varied, it's such mysterious world of human connection that you can never get bored of it.
That's brilliant.
So, like, I think that's what's available to everyone. And I think women probably are already there. Like, they know this world and they're like, you're probably sitting there thinking, Kapil, you finally got it. Right? That world is available to everyone. And I think that's what I really want to sort of bring across. And that connection really is the thing that we all need. And for connection, we have to connect with our body, and we have to do all of those other things that I talked about in the framework. However, if you do the work, the results on the other side are just magical.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so true that it's the connection, but it's with self first, isn't it? It has to start with self, and with what's going on and recognizing, because if you spent so long not being aware of what is happening with your body on a complete level rather than just what's going on up here, then it's like you say, it's something to learn, isn't it? And what happened? How did you learn? So Reiki for me, yes, I guess I was a little bit intuitive. I had a narcissistic mother, so I learned to be intuitive when I was younger. But when I did my Reiki training, that's what really brought me in to recognize energy, my energy, other people's energy, read it, heal with it as well. We can heal more in ourselves and others. But what did you do? What exactly did you do that enabled you to open you up to this magic, as you call it?
My training was through sexuality work. So I got trained in this practice, a partnered practice, which combines sexuality and mindfulness together. It's called orgasmic meditation, and it was a really amazing practice because what it did was, sexual energy is the most potent energy on this planet, and it's also something that we have the least amount of skill with, right? So through this practice and training, what I was able to do was to bring my focus and attention in this really volatile energetic field. And while I was doing that, I was connected to another human being. So I was able to learn how to feel into the feeling states of my partner, So, and that's what this practice does. It's almost like, I was talking about emotional intelligence before, and one of the things that they talk about in emotional intelligence is this idea of mutual empathy. It's like where both people are able to feel into the feeling states of each other. And you develop mutual empathy in sexuality, in sexual energy. Sexual energy is the most potent place to develop that mutual empathy. And that's why I think when we have deep intimacy, we feel so connected to other human beings, so that's how I got trained, um, it was like, we used to call it like, it's like meditating on crack. Because when you're meditating, it's like you're in a quiet space, there's no distraction, and even that is hard. But when you're meditating in a sexual energetic field, then it's like it's so volatile. To learn how to cultivate your attention inside of that is even more difficult, like way more difficult. But but because you're doing it in a sexuality field, it's there's some pleasure in there, so there's that reward center that makes it easier for you to concentrate. um, does that answer your question?
It does, yeah, it does. And actually, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was where you learned it. So part of me is like, wow, okay, I need to interview you for another 46 minutes about that. But anyway, yeah, no, that's, I think, well, it's got to come from somewhere, and that totally makes sense, actually. I mean, so Sting, the
Right.
incredible
Yeah.
guitarist. So he
Yeah.
talks about that in his biography. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I just want to say one more thing about that. I think what you said was like the self connection to self, and I find that it's a combination of connection to self and connection to others, because we do need a feedback loop.
Hmm.
We do need a feedback loop to tell us of our progress or where on the map we are. If we're trying to go to A to B and there's a map, then we need feedback loop to tell us where we are on the map. And I think that's where I am not a big fan of just go and do the work on yourself and then come back to the world and say, I'm fixed. I'm a big fan of um, do the work, interact with the world, and you will learn what's working, what's not working. You go back on the mat, do the work, and do those things simultaneously. And that will be most effective way of bringing change in a sustainable way. So I just wanted to say that before you go. We
Yeah.
talk about Sting.
Well, just that he puts his course in tantric sex down to the fact that that's when he really started understanding being human.
Right.
So that was all. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And like you did mention practices, and I know you've got a significant practice, haven't you, that you do every morning, because if we're retraining to do anything to get better at it, you need to keep going at it, don't you? And
Yeah.
that does take. And do you go with the first 7 minutes of your day are the most important? I really like that
No.
that very first part of your day. No,
Well, I
rubbish.
mean, I feel like I think everyone have their own way. For me, my practices have been like, I think the only reason I still feel sane and actually feel amazing is because of my morning practice. So when the lockdown started, like I've had a regular practice anyway, but when the lockdown started, I set up a group where we do a 1 hour morning practice every day. And when I say morning practice, we do writing, so journaling or some other kind of like writing practices to empty your mind. Then we do 20 minutes of meditation, sitting meditation practice. And then we do some kind of like spiritual reading and then have a brief conversation about it. And then we connect with each other a little bit and set our intention for the day and finish it. It has been, and part of that we also write things like desires and gratitudes for the day that has gone. Um, and I have to say that that has been the most important thing in my life over the last sort of 7 months or so, and that is the single most important thing that has kept me sane throughout this period of lockdown, because I was able to cultivate a sense of just like this calm in my system, in that, yeah, a lot of things are happening in my body, but I was um, just like where am I in self-love and self-care and taking care of my mind, body, and spirit. That was just really amazing. And I do recommend people, whatever kind of practices you have, but do have some kind of regular practices for your mind, for your body, and for your soul. And if you do have that, you will see a profound change in no time, really.
Yeah, I second that. I started my practices about 4 years ago when I was in complete overwhelm, and it's made a pivotal difference to my mental health and physical health, the whole lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And being calm and a level of peace. Yeah, for sure. Fantastic. So that is part of your work, isn't it? You create men's groups. You've got men's groups that you offer support in, and people can find out about that at nibana.life on Facebook and on your website too. Nibana, Nibana, is that right?
Yeah, Nibana.life. So that's our website, that's our Facebook page. I have a couple of different Facebook groups that you can find info on that Facebook page, and also that's our Instagram as well, Nibana.life.
Fantastic. And obviously we'd love you, if you haven't already, to join the Being Fine Facebook group, because not only do we have amazing chats like this today with brilliant authors like Kapil, we have every other week one author interviews another author about the topic of wellness, vulnerability, and so much more. So tune into that as well. The book will be out in November. I was going to say October. No, that ain't gonna happen now. We'll be out in November. I was hoping to get it kind of ready for a pre-sale for Kapil's TED Talk, which was last week, but didn't quite happen. But we will get the book out to you as soon as possible on Kindle, and obviously paperback too. Because actually, people like to feel the book, don't they? I like to feel this book. It feels good.
Yes. How did you get a copy of that?
It's a fake one. Look, I'm faking it till I make it clear. This is my old book. And this is a fake one that you can even see. Look.
I like the cover.
So I can't hold it up that high. There you go, just giving away my trade secret. But Being Fine, the other F word. I'm going to add the other F word, menus. The other F word, menus, because this book is primarily for men. And thank you, Mark Stickley, for watching this. Mark and I go way back. He was in the police with me. So he's got a fair few stories to tell about being fine. Mark, you should be in this book, actually, by the way. Give me a call. He's been through one hell of a journey, and he should be in this book. So, yeah, fantastic as always, Kapil, talking to you. And congratulations again on your TEDx talk for Lambeth. It was incredible. It was the best of the day. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to keep saying that because it's true. So well done. Connect with Kapil at nibana.life. Connect with us at Being Fine. The book will be out soon. Thank you for watching or listening today. Take care.
Thanks, Jo.
Take care. Thanks, Kapil. Bye.